Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle Bob. Sunday, October 24th, 2021. I'd like to give a shout out to my sister who had a birthday a couple of weeks ago, and my nephew's son. A blessed happy birthday to both of you. Tonight, I will be sharing a story I have read to my primary school children for decades, including my Chinese students and Native American students during the past few years. Perhaps you might enjoy this story as well. The story I'm going to retell is called Deep, Dark Forest. A promise is as good as you keep it. This story was taken from a book of short stories. Sit back and enjoy, but please, don't be scared. There are a few surprises in this story. It all started with a sister and brother who lived in the middle of a green meadow in a small cabin with their mom and dad. They didn't have much, but they sure appreciated everything they did have. One day, Papa came home and he surprised brother and sister with a new red shiny ball. Little sister and little brother were so excited. They had a new toy given to them by their father. Now, Papa said, "Don't throw this ball into the deep, dark forest, or you will get a whipping." Little sister and little brother said, No, we won't. We promise we won't." Papa said, "Take this red ball and go have some fun." So little sister and little brother, they took the little red ball out into the green meadow surrounded by the deep, dark forest. They were playing catch. And little brother said, Sister, go back a little bit further. So little sister walked backwards. He said, go further. And so then he threw the ball. Little sister jumped up and caught that red ball. Little sister cocks back her hand and throws the ball back to little brother. They were having so much fun. Little brother says, "Go back a little further. So little sister listened to little brother and she went back. And little brother cocked his hand back and poof! He throws a red ball. Little sister jumps up to catch it and it goes right through her hands and landed in the deep, dark forest. Both little sister and little brother, they ran to the edge of the deep, dark forest. They knew that they were going to get in trouble and get a whooping from their papa if they stepped foot in that deep, dark forest. They knew they were going to get a whooping if they lost their red shiny ball. They looked at each other. They looked into the forest, the deep, dark forest. Little sister said, "Either way you look at it, little brother, we're going to get a whooping." They looked at each other. They looked forward. They held each other's hands. They took one step forward, another step forward, as they entered into the deep, dark forest. They grew smaller, and the forest grew taller and taller. They were scared. So they held on to each other's hands, and they took another step and another step. And lo and behold, right in front of them, it was like a bush and a path around the bush. Little sister said, "You go that way, and I'll go this way." Little brother said, "Okay." So they split up, and they go opposite directions around this green bush. And they met on the other side. And what did they see? They looked down. What do you think they saw? Nope, not the red shiny ball, but they saw a foot. An old shoe with a foot inside. They separated the bushes, and they saw this old man sitting on a bench. His eyes were closed and his arms were folded. He had a big, long, crooked nose with a wart right on the tip of his nose. He had a long chin with hair stubbles all over his chin, and his fingers, they were long and bony. His clothes were tattered, holes in his shirt, holes in his pants. His boots were too big for his feet. His laces were untied. All of a sudden, they heard this old man, and they held, little sister and little brother held on to each other. And all of a sudden, this old man with the crooked nose and long dangly fingers and a hat like a witch's hat on top of his head, he says, "What do you want?" Little sister and little brother were shaking with fear and said, "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh." They couldn't even speak. They were so afraid. Little brother says, we lost our little red ball, and our papa's going to give us a whooping if we don't find it. Did you see it?" "What do you mean, did I see it? Of course I didn't. I've been sleeping here for years and years." "Well," little sister says, "well, do you think you can help me?" He says, Well, I haven't eaten for years and years and years. If you can get me a red apple, I might be able to find your red shiny ball." Little sister says, Okay. Well, where am I going to find the red apple? Then all of a sudden, this old man, we think is a wizard, he reaches his hand over little brother, and he goes, "Abracadabra, mishikaboo, beely-bee-bop, boo-boop-boo-boo." Poof! Little brother turned into a chicken. "What?" little sister said. "Why'd you do that?" "Find me an apple, and I'll change your brother back into a little brother, and you'll find your red, shiny ball." Little sister thought, this wizard, he hasn't eaten for years, and he just turned my little brother into a chicken. Little brother wasn't afraid. Little brother hopped up on, as a little chicken, hopped up onto the bench, and he just sat there, right next to the wizard. Little sister didn't know if she should leave. That wizard might eat him. because the wizard hasn't eaten for years. The wizard said, well, what are you waiting for? I'll be here with your little chicken brother. Go. Little sister said, okay. So she starts walking into the deep, dark forest. And off in the distance, right over there, yeah, right over there, she hears this boom, 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 like wood was being chopped. So she followed the sound. And as she followed the sound, and she got closer to that boom, 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 she noticed there is a lumberjack. He was cutting a tree. And right next to the lumberjack was a basket of red, shiny apples. Little sister walked up very slowly and said, excuse me, Mr. Axeman, lumberjack man, may I have an apple? He puts his axe down, he looks at the little sister and says, what? You want me to give you a red apple? No. I need a red apple. There's this wizard over there, and he's changed my brother into a chicken, and he hasn't eaten, and we've lost our red ball, and the lumberjack shook his head and said, I'll sell you a red apple for a nickel. Little sister said, but I don't have a nickel. Well, I guess you don't get the red shiny apple then. He picks up his axe, begins to start swinging it to hit the tree, to chop down the tree. Little sister says, wait. I promise I'll give you a nickel if you give me that apple. The lumberjack turns around and looks at little sister and says, a promise is only as good as you keep it. I promise, Mr. Lumberjack, I will keep my promise. I will give you that nickel, but I must have that apple now. Okay, as long as you keep your promise, here you go. Here's the red, shiny apple. Little sister grabbed the apple from the man's hand, and she started walking very, very quickly, almost running. And she got back to where little brother and the wizard were sitting on the bench. What do you think little sister saw? What do you think? Did you think she found bones? Do you think she found her little chicken brother in one piece? What do you think? Well, boys and girls, let me tell you. When little sister saw the wizard and her little chicken brother in the deep, dark forest, little chicken brother was laying his head on the wizard's shoulder. They were sleeping. Everything was okay. Little sister put the red shiny apple up in the air. Here you go, here's a red apple, here's a red apple. The wizard woke up. Little chicken brother hopped off the bench. Yay, he said. The little sister gave the red apple to the wizard. The wizard said, thank you, it's been so long. He bites into the apple, and all of a sudden, poof, the wizard turned into a prince. The prince said, I've been here for years and years and years, and no one has fed me, no one has even paid any attention to me. You were the first one. Thank you, little sister and little brother. And then little sister said, but what about my brother? He's a chicken. The prince had magical powers. He put his hand over the little chicken brother, and he said, abracadabra, mishikaboo, boddy boo. Poof! Little chicken brother became little brother again. And little sister, she had tears in her eyes. And the prince said, why are you crying? She says, I made a promise. I made a promise to the lumberjack. I promised him I would give him a nickel for the apple. And we still haven't found the red shiny ball. We're going to get a whooping when we get home. Little brother took little sister's hand and said, yeah, what are we going to do? The prince says, see that light? That tiny little light through the deep, dark forest. They look over their shoulder and say, yeah. He says, follow that light. So they take each other's hands again. And they take one step, and another step, and another step, and another step, until they reach the edge of the forest, where the forest stopped, the deep, dark forest. Where the deep, dark forest stopped, the meadow began. And they saw that light, it was the light of their cabin where Mama and Papa lived, and they lived too. But they were so sad. They don't have their red ball, and little sister doesn't have a nickel to pay the lumberjack. They looked at each other, and they didn't know what to do. They looked at each other. They looked at the cabin with the little shining light. They were just getting ready to get a whooping. They were so sad. Little brother looked down. Little sister looked down. What do you think they found? Yeah, they found the red shiny ball. It was right sitting on the ground right between them. They were so happy. But little sister said, but I still need to pay the lumberjack a nickel. They picked up the little red ball, and lo and behold, underneath the little red ball was a bright, shiny nickel. Little sister took that nickel, ran to the forest where she heard the sound of the lumberjack chopping wood, gave the lumberjack the nickel. The lumberjack said, thank you. A promise is as good as you can keep it. Thank you very much. You're a good little girl. Little sister runs back to the little brother. Now they have to go back home. It's very late. It's dark outside. They follow that light from the cabin, and they're walking up the steps of the cabin. They put their hand on the handle. They're ready to get a whooping from Papa because they lost the red ball, and they went into the deep, dark forest. They turned that handle. They opened the door. And there was Mama and Papa. Mama and Papa shouted with joy, hugged both of their children, little sister and little brother, and says, we're so glad you're okay. Thank you for coming home again. And they lived happily ever after. And that, my friends, is the deep, dark forest. Thank you for listening to our story tonight. Next Sunday will be October 31st, 2021. We will take a break so we can greet the ghosts and goblins who may be knocking on our door. The following week, I will share another favorite story I've shared for decades with my former students, or maybe share a story from my life. So come back next week to discover the story I will share with you. May you enjoy the choices you make today and every day. This is Uncle Bob signing off. Good night and see you next time.